Welcome to the College Football Bros, the podcast that still makes freshman mistakes. And now, here are your hosts, Michael, Ryan, and Trey Newman.
Welcome to the College Football Bros podcast. I am Michael Newman, and I'm joined by the middlest brother.
That's me, Ryan Newman.
And by the oldest brother.
And that would be me, Trey Newman.
All right, before we get into a brief recap of week 3, want to encourage everyone to subscribe to our YouTube channel. Just search College Football Bros podcast on YouTube. And we've got a video coming out later today. We're going to make our playoff and Heisman picks for the season. So be sure to check that out. Give it a thumbs up for us. But yeah, let's get into week 3. So Oklahoma State trailed Tulsa at home 7-3 going into the fourth quarter. Spencer Sanders, of course, went down early in the game with an ankle injury, but they ended up scoring 13 unanswered to win 16-7. So guys, how worried should Oklahoma State fans be?
Well, first of all, I would have bet a significant amount of money that in this game specifically, there'd be more than 10 points scored going into the fourth quarter with these two offenses. I'd be a little concerned, especially obviously with Spencer Sanders hobbled. But I mean, true freshman Shane Ellingworth, he kind of came in and actually looked pretty good. He provided a spark. He was really their third string guy. But I'm not going to write off the offense just yet. I'm just going to kind of chalk it up to a hiccup. But it's a little alarming in the sense that last year, Chuba Hubbard just went off against this Tulsa defense, and this year he was completely shut down. So it's a little mystifying there. I guess I'll just kind of chalk it up to a little first game COVID jitters. I don't know. It was just an odd game.
Yeah, a lot of the whole Big 12 needs just a redo on week 1 on their first games. I mean, it was kind of weird. Luckily, Oklahoma State was able to survive. I'm going to look at it from a positive point of view. Look at their defense. Look how good their defense played. I mean, they shut down Tulsa. Tulsa's got a solid offense. So I'm not that worried about the offense. I mean, the only thing that does worry me is Sanders' ankle. But if he's able to come back and be, healthy-ish, pretty healthy this year, then I think they'll get it going. They got too many playmakers, too good offense, too many returning production to come back and to really struggle throughout the year. It's okay to struggle in one game. It happens, especially in the first one. But I'm encouraged by the defense and how well they played. So, I'm not saying I'm not worried. Like it's not good, but I'm going to temper my expectations or temper my disappointment, I guess.
Yeah, I think I'm a little bit more worried than each of you guys. And it's obviously because of the health going forward of Spencer Sanders, but honestly, mostly the offensive line, because that was a group that lost some starters this offseason, one to retirement, one I think got dismissed from the team. So that was the kind of question mark of the whole offense. And it reared its head in this game. 3 yards per carry for Chuba Hubbard, 7 sacks allowed. That is a worry going forward if your goal is to win the Big 12.
It's true. Yep.
Okay, next game, UCF pulled away from Georgia Tech in the fourth quarter to win 49-21 on the road. Big win for them. Ryan, what'd you see here?
Yeah, I mean, UCF got off to a hard start. They were up pretty big early. They were looking good. Then kind of just slowed down there for a while. They had a little bit of a mid-game lull, and Georgia Tech kind of made it a game there. They cut it to 7. It was like 28-21. And you thought, hey, Georgia Tech could pull this one out here. But then, UCF outscored them 21-0 from that point on. But Jeff Sims, he's gonna be good. He's gonna be good, but he's not good yet. He's kind of had some couple of other picks in this game. He had 2 picks in the last game, and he was just
a really bad fumble early too.
Yeah, he's a true freshman. It's definitely shows. He was just far outshined by Dylan Gabriel, a sophomore for UCF, and he had a huge game. He threw for over 400 yards, and it's a good-looking game for UCF. I mean, they just beat a team by 28 that just went in and beat Florida State the week before. So if you're UCF, you got to feel pretty solid about yourself. And I wish they could have. They probably wish they could have faced a top 25 non-conference opponent to give themselves that extra boost they might have wanted for, playoff consideration or maybe G6 consideration or Group of 6 or New Year's 6 consideration, but whatever 6. So I mean, it was a great game for UCF. First game looking good.
Yeah, I mean, Dylan Gabriel, looked unbelievable. That guy is, he's, if they keep winning and he keeps having games like this, he'll obviously be play himself into Heisman consideration. I know it's hard for a G5 guy to win it, but they did what they needed to do. All you can do if you're UCF is win it against your schedule, and you got to hope that Georgia Tech ends up having a good year, that Jeff Sims eliminates some of those freshman mistakes going forward. But as far as Georgia Tech, I'm not too discouraged. Like, this is year 2 of a big rebuild, and you've still got a promising looking quarterback. Yeah, you're going to have games like this where, they tried to hang in there as long as they could, but UCF is just way ahead of them offensively.
They were in the game in the third quarter, and I would be not disappointed at all if I was Georgia Tech.
No, I'm actually more encouraged after watching this. I mean, the true freshman, Sims is obviously green, but like they put up good numbers as an offense, but you touched on, Ryan, they struggle with the turnovers, but that's going to happen as this youth develops. Like, they were also without some key starters on offense and defense, so they weren't 100% full strength. Like, I'm kind of taking this as an optimistic side because UCF is legit, man. Their offense is so fun to watch. Like, I'm going to want to watch them every time they play on Saturday.
Mm-hmm. They're good.
All right, the big game of the night was Miami, and they got an easy victory at Louisville, 47-34. And the story of the game was, of course, Miami's new offense under Rhett Lashley. De'Aaron King, great game. 18 of 30, 325 yards, 3 touchdowns. Cameron Harris had another big day on the ground. So obviously, I think all of us, really everybody, has to upgrade their opinion of Miami's offense yet again. Probably did the same thing after the UAB game week 1. But I'm going to temper it a little bit. I'm not ready to say that they're, a top 15 offense yet, or that Miami's back, because I think an equally big story in this game was Louisville's defense. It looked terrible. There were guys out of position. It looked like last year, because last year Miami, with not a great offense at the time, put up 52 on Louisville. Exactly, and Jaron Williams had 6 touchdowns. So I think that kind of performance has to give you a little bit of pause when, if you're going to the Miami's back kind of a level. So that's, again, I'm encouraged, but not crazy.
I totally agree with that. And I think we can all agree that Cunningham needs to go back to McHale, apparently, because Malik was bad luck this week. But for those that don't know, he was changing his name back to Malik or whatever. It's hard to keep him straight now. Actually, I'm getting confused. Malik.
It's Malik now. Yeah.
Yeah. But honestly, you touched on how bad that defense was. It was really horrendous. Like, Miami was, I'm like you with their offense. I love De'Aaron King and I love the tempo with Rhett Lashley, but I mean, some of the plays that they had were against air. Like, there was the first possession of third quarter, they had just a simple kind of wide run. Cameron Harris runs 75 yards for a touchdown. Louisville comes back, scores a touchdown. The very next play, Miami just threw like a little out just because 10 yards down the field, because there was no defender within like 20 yards of the receiver. And he ran 75 yards for a touchdown. So like, that's not going to happen at all every week, but they obviously, force the defense's hand a little bit and apply that pressure. So I'm looking forward to the Miami offense. I am more encouraged than I was, but I'm also like you, Mike. I'm a little tempered, especially since now they play Florida State, Clemson, and Pitt in their next 3 games. So they can prove it.
Yeah. We'll learn a lot after those 3.
Sure. I guess, I'm definitely, I'm saying with you guys, I'm more encouraged, obviously, on Miami's offense right now, especially mainly just because De'Aaron King, I mean, he's, even when they go up against tougher defenses, I mean, I know De'Aaron he looks more like the De'Aaron King that we saw a couple years ago, right? So that's kind of gives you the encouragement, even when they do face a better D, that they'll still be able to at least, of course, they're not going to put up the offense they may have did against Louisville, but competent to move the ball and, put up some points. I'm kind of looking at it from Louisville's point of view. It's like, man, we still suck again on defense. Like, it's too bad. Like, it's going to hurt them. This was going to be such an explosive offense. And they just couldn't pair it with an improved defense. It seems like they're going to struggle again on that side of the ball, and it's going to hold them back from reaching the potential that they probably could have got to with that great offense. So it's kind of disappointing if you're a Louisville fan there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay, let's quickly get through some of the other big games, get to the rapid recaps. Get us started, Trey.
All right, we had Syracuse and Pitt. Pitt won this one 21-10. Syracuse offense is pitiful. I mean, see what I did there? Pitiful. Yeah.
Yeah.
But they've shown nothing through the first couple weeks. DeVito, he threw a pick on a screen pass. Like, that's hard to do.
You know what his yard per attempt is at this point?
It can't be
negative.
good.
Yeah, I saw that.
No, his yards.
I'm kidding.
Yeah.
3.
But
it's 3.
It's 3.
Oh my gosh. I mean, it's too bad too, because the Orange have a good defense. But it's just not good enough to overcome such a horrendous offense so far. Their lone touchdown was when their backup Rex Culpepper threw a long touchdown pass, and it was kind of cool moment for him because he recovered from cancer recently. But part of the reason, though, is Syracuse only had 171 yards because that Pitt defense, though, is very good, and they're living up to the hype. So if Pickett can improve the offense just a little bit, they're going to be tough this season. Next one is App State at Marshall. Marshall pulled the upset here 17-7. Freshman Grant Wells didn't play all that great, but Brendan Knox was the man at running back, going for 138 and a touchdown. The Marshall defense, though, they played great, held Zach Thomas and the Mountaineers in check. 2 plays of the game, though, were in the fourth quarter. Thomas hit their tight end for a 41-yard pass. It looked like he might actually rumble into the end zone, but Marshall punched the ball out and recovered it in the end zone for a touchback. Huge play.
It was one of those you saw coming too. You saw the guy running, you got to yell wolf, wolf, and they're always going to try and punch it out. So if you're the receiver, like, that's coming, but he wasn't.
Especially
ready
as a tight end, like he knew he wasn't going to be able to outrun.
You're going to get caught up too, right?
Yeah. So that was the biggest play, and then late in the game, they missed a short field goal to cut it to 7 with about 3 minutes to go. Yeah. So that was brutal, but good win for Doc Holliday's boys.
App State also had I think it was a big run for a touchdown that was called back because the running back, he had just trucked somebody and then ran for, I think, a touchdown. But when he trucked the guy, his knee barely hit the ground.
So
it back.
Yeah, it was a tough blow for App State. My last one here is Navy at Tulane. This was just a bizarre game. Tulane was up 24-0 at half. And at that point, Navy had lost the first 6 quarters 79-3. Tulane, they were threatening to put it away, but they threw a pick near the Navy goal line. Then all of a sudden, Navy just woke up. They rose from the dead, and they went on a tear. They ended up gaining almost 300 yards in the second half. They converted a 2-point conversion. The defense had a safety. The defense was playing lights out. They ended up kicking a field goal on the last play of the game to complete the comeback and win 27-24.
Ooh, pick in the goal line when you're going to put it away. Ooh,
yeah,
that's killer.
All right, I've got NC State winning a back and forth game against Wake Forest, 45-42. Bailey Hockman got the start for I think Devin Leary was out for COVID reasons, and he played very well. So he's now the starter for NC State, even with Devin Leary coming back. But the story of the game was NC State's running game. Bam Knight, Ricky Person, and Jordan Houston combined for 250 yards on 6.8 yards per carry. So that offensive line looks to be much improved. And Wake Forest out to an 0-2 start, and they've still got some really tough games on the schedule. They've got Virginia Tech, Miami, North Carolina, Notre Dame.
Well, that one just got postponed, right? So
it did get postponed, but they rescheduled it for later. So it could be a tough year for Dave Clawson. Liberty won at Western Kentucky 30-24. They were 2 touchdown underdogs. But Hugh Freeze looks to have found his next quarterback to replace Buckshot Calvert. He's got Malik Willis, the transfer from Auburn, really good in this game, mostly on the ground. 21 carries, 168 yards, and 3 touchdowns against what we thought was going to be a really good Western Kentucky defense, but so far, 2 weeks in, has played pretty bad. And then final 2 games I have are 2 blowouts by ACC teams. Clemson over the Citadel. They were up 49-0 at halftime.
Yeah.
Trevor Lawrence just, throwing perfect passes in the end zone. And the live betting line at this time was Clemson minus 72.5.
Ooh, wow.
Which is just crazy. Final score ended up being 49-0. So Clemson.
That's crazy. I got to look at live bets more. That's crazy. 70.
Well, I didn't have access to that book because someone posted it in our Patreon Discord. And I was like, I would take that plus 72.5.
I know that's like, man, they really got to pour it on. They, we've seen from a couple of games so far this year, OU'd had it, and then now Clemson.
Teams they really take their foot off the gas.
Yeah, they do. After halftime, it's over. Like, we're not going to score unless you.
Usually they'll score like 49-0. I would have thought maybe they'd put up, I don't know,
like 63 maybe or something. Yeah.
Yeah,
but 72. Wow, that's
a big number.
I would have taken that had I known. That's cool.
Anyway, USF at Notre Dame. So the Irish just completely dominated 52-0. Hard to take much away here other than that. Notre Dame's running game seems to be the thing that's going to carry them this year. And they did what they're supposed to do as probably the second best team in the ACC.
Yeah, USF got a lot of work to do. Mm-hmm. All right, my first game, I have Boston College at Duke. BC dominated here. They won in Durham 26-6. They outscored Duke 19-0 in the second half. Phil Jerkovich looked really good. I mean, he was 17 of 23 for 300 yards, couple touchdowns. BC all of a sudden looks like a tough game here in the ACC. With that good ground game, solid quarterback, defense looks pretty good. So it was Duke, but 6 points. That's pretty good.
Duke shot themselves in the foot. They had a lot of turnovers, but still.
Yeah, but a very, very encouraging game here just because of Jerkovich. I mean, that's just got to raise your eyebrows a ton for BC fans. Like, hey, we might actually be all right. Mm-hmm. So, they got North Carolina, Pitt, and Virginia Tech in their next 3 games. Boston College does. So 3 good teams that will really test. They have I think they play a FCS team or something this week, but 3 ACC games after that are tough.
They play Texas State.
Okay, that's what it is. All right, yeah. So there you go. So we'll see, but a very, very good start. Oh yeah, still me. Second game is Louisiana Lafayette at Georgia State. Maybe the Raging Cajuns had a bit of a hangover here after their big win against Iowa State, but we shouldn't underestimate Georgia State. They should have a solid team this year. Ton of returning production from a decent team last year. Elijah Mitchell for Raging Cajuns had a big game on the ground, and they really needed it. They were down 2 touchdowns early in the game. They ended up forcing overtime, kind of clawed their way back, and they won 34-31 in overtime. So their New Year's 6 bowl spot stays alive. My final game is Louisiana Tech at Southern Miss. This was a pretty crazy game. I mean, these 2 teams are kind of battling it out in that Conference USA division, right behind UAB. Southern Miss led 27-10 in the third quarter, but Louisiana Tech made a run. They cut it to a 1-score game. So when they got the ball with down 6 with about 5 minutes left, they went on a long 5-minute drive and ended up scoring on 4th and goal to win the game 31-30. The guy that they originally ruled the receiver out, but on replay it showed that he barely got his foot in, and so they tied it and then kicked the extra point and won. So that was just a crazy finish there and a good comeback win for the Bulldogs.
Okay, let's move on to our segment, and then we'll get to week 4 picks. But first, actually, we've got a word from MyBookie. Eventually.
Yeah,
we'll get that.
We'll get it one of these days.
I'm pulling it up.
Okay.
Hey, MyBookie's got his little promotion again this weekend.
There you go. Tell them about it, Ryan.
It's like, yeah. So they are offering like bonus odds Saturday, I think they call it, or what is it? I got to look it up too now. No, what's it called?
It's fine.
Something Saturday. So they're giving you like way better odds on some picks that you normally would. So it's like essentially you have to bet it. Just if you're part of it.
Yeah, they're boosting the odds.
Boosting.
Like one of them, wasn't it? If Kansas State scores at all.
If Kansas State scores any points at all, then the odds are like if you bet $10, you'll get $10. You'll get a total of 20 back, right? So you'll win $10. So it's like, I think K-State can score a point versus OU. So there's some other ones like that where it's like, ooh, that looks very, very attractive. So another reason to join.
Yeah. So anyways, on to MyBookie. Winning season once again returns here. It means doubling your first deposit. Winning season also means insane player props, epic bonuses, the craziest cross sport wagers. Winning season means watching live sports and betting sports all season long. Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs, they seem to be starting right where they left off. The NFL has returned in a big way. You got action-packed Sundays, huge games on Saturdays. There's prizes week in and week out. It's fun to get in on the action. Use the promo code that you can see on our screen if you're watching on YouTube. All caps CF Bros. That's CF Bros, and you can double your first deposit up to $1,000. There is a 10 times rollover on that, but up to $1,000 in free play with your first deposit. You can bet with the best in the NFL this season for your chance to win big. Finally, that's promo code CF Bros, and you can double your first deposit. So join my bookie. It's been fun so far for all of us. We've all joined.
I've been making money so far.
Ryan and I are going to put him out of business, I think, unfortunately.
It'll come to a crashing end here pretty soon.
You guys have had some good early season.
It's the curse of a good start. Now I'm confident. Now I'm really setting myself up here.
Letting it fly. All right, let's get to our segment. So we each get to take 2 mulligans here from our preview episode. So we've previewed the ACC, the Big 12, 3 G5 conferences, and they've all, of course, played some games so far. So we're each going to give, 2 kind of predictions or maybe opinions you expressed that you wish you could have back. We're going to give you the chance to take them back right now. So Trey, what's your first one?
My first one came from our ACC preview, and it was about Florida State. I had them over the 7 wins. I was optimistic on Norvell and Blackman and turning that offense around. It looked really like more of the same, and they're from the last couple seasons when they played Georgia Tech and lost. Norvell, unfortunately now has COVID. Who knows how long he'll be gone. Now the Noles are a double-digit underdog to Miami. They're staring 0-2, so over 7's not looking that promising.
No. For me, my first one, I was very low on Syracuse's defense. I said, last year they were bad. They lost their 2 best edge rushers. They were 121st in returning production, and they're switching to that 3-3-5 with new defensive coordinator Tony White. So I just didn't see it going well. But first 2 games, given the situations the offense has put them in by not moving the ball at all, leaving them on the field a lot, they've done pretty well. They kind of eventually caved at the end of that North Carolina game, but it was understandable. The offense just was not putting them in good positions. And against Pitt, they played well the whole game. So the defense looks solid, or at the very least, okay.
Yeah, it does, which was a little bit weird since last year they were supposed to be pretty darn good and ended up being not so good.
I know.
This year they were not supposed to be that great, but they're looking pretty solid. Okay, I'll go with I had Miami under 7.5. It's still a ways to go for sure, but they've first off, beating UAB is no slouch. That was a solid team that won 10 games last year. So that is maybe double digits games, but that was a good test, that one. So that was a good one. Then of course, just the win at Louisville. It was really a huge kind of toss up game there, and that was so between Miami and Louisville and their over unders, I always felt like that game was a huge swing one for both teams. So sitting at 2-0, they're looking pretty darn good.
Okay.
All right. My next one, I was pretty high on, or at least optimistic on, Middle Tennessee's offense. I thought Asher O'Hara was going to bounce back. They had that tough game against Army, and I kind of wrote that off. And then last week I said, stock still, Asher O'Hara is going to light it up. They're going to back up. But then they lost 47-14 to Troy as a favorite at home. O'Hara only had 150 yards and a pick. I'm just really, now all of a sudden I'm not too confident that Asher can get turned around in Murfreesboro.
What happened?
They're one of the worst teams in college football right now. It's crazy.
It's crazy. And O'Hara was so good last year on offense, or he was encouraging and
good run. Yeah.
All right. My second one is making Iowa State over 6.5 wins my lock. I'm not panicking about the team. I still think they're good. But losing as a double-digit favorite at home to Louisiana itself is, and just the way Purdy and the offense played causes me to, of course, downgrade them a little bit. But really the big thing is just the fact that it is a loss. So now they need to go 7-2 in Big 12 play in order to go over, which even before the season I would have thought was kind of a long shot. So I was kind of counting on them getting a win in game 1.
Yep. All right. I'll hear you there. All right. My last one here. I'm going to say I regret taking Texas Tech over the 4.5. They did get a win, but boy, they got to win 4 more games in the Big 12. They gave up nearly 600 yards passing to Houston Baptist. They barely won the game. They had to squeak it out.
Yeah.
Houston
Did you say
Baptist
over 400 yards passing?
No, I said nearly 600.
Oh, nearly. Okay, I'm sorry.
Yeah, at least
that's not even close to what you said.
No, it's not. I was like, what are you? No, it's not at all. So yeah, that's pretty rough. And then that same Houston Baptist team got trucked by North Texas the week before, and then you see North Texas just get trucked by SMU. So it's not looking good for Texas Tech to get 4 Big 12 wins. So I wish I could take that back.
Okay. All right. Well, there you go. There's our mulligans. Let's go into our week 4 picks. We've got finally a sort of not a full slate, but pretty close. We got the SEC, of course, coming back. So we've got some big favorites here with the top teams back in action. If I told you one of these 4 games I'm about to list is going to be a 1-score game late in the second half, which one would you choose? So we've got Kansas State at OU. OU's favored 28. Alabama minus 28 at Missouri. Georgia is favored 26 at Arkansas. And Vanderbilt goes to A&M. The Aggies are favored 30.5. So Ryan, which one of those games would it not totally shock you to be close late in the game?
Yeah, that is tough. I don't want anybody to get mad at me, but
don't worry about that, Ryan. Don't worry about that.
No, I'm gonna go with Georgia at Arkansas.
Oh, so you think Georgia's gonna lose to Arkansas?
Yeah. Wow, you heard it here for
Yeah, I'm calling it. Yeah.
What an idiot, dude.
I don't know. I just
Cal Trask gonna be first round pick or number 1 pick?
It's possible. Joe Burrow. People would have laughed if you said Joe Burrow would have ended up being the number 1 pick.
That's true. I can't deny that.
So just laugh at me now.
I will.
All right. Yeah, you are.
We laughed at you for Baylor last year to win the Big 12. It almost happened.
I'm chuckling on myself a little bit on that.
This is your Baylor
from Trask, but I'm not sure how Lawrence just slipped my mind in the moment. But
and Justin Fields.
Yeah,
we'll see.
All right, we'll get there.
So Georgia at Arkansas here. I just think maybe the first game with the new quarterback here for Georgia, they could really come out sloppy and sluggish on offense. We know how much they have to kind of replace offensively, especially up front. So that's going to be a lot of new pieces that could maybe I could see them just kind of stumbling their toe, and really not so much of what Arkansas could do, more just about maybe Georgia just kind of coughs it up or somehow messes up. So, I mean, obviously I don't think it's going to happen, but I can see that. And maybe Raheem Boyd for Arkansas can break a couple nice runs. He's a really good running back. So, and Felipe Franks has experience in big games, so he could maybe hold his own. So yeah, maybe why not Arkansas?
Okay,
I'm kind of torn between a couple of these because I do think they're all going to be sound defeats. I agree though, Ryan, with the Georgia Arkansas. I mean, it's on the road, mixing in that new offense with you got the new offensive coordinator and now a new quarterback that you didn't think you might have had a couple weeks back. I'm not like worried that the offense won't perform, but maybe it'll take them a half to get their kinks out. And Felipe Franks might lead some spirited drives against maybe the best defense in the country. That'll be difficult, but maybe just a first half struggles before they pull away.
Yeah. Well, this is boring because we all picked the same game. I mean, it is the lowest point spread, so I guess it's not crazy. And again, none of us are predicting this, but if there is one of these 4, then sure. I pretty much echo the reasons you guys did. And we should talk about who will be the quarterback, where they haven't said it yet, but a lot of people think DeJuan Mathis is the favorite. Of course, he's a redshirt freshman coming back from a brain cyst he had last year, so kind of a really good story. JT Daniels, as far as I think we know hasn't been cleared yet for full contact, at least that has been publicly reported. So we'll see what happens there. Let's see these other games we got. I mean, K-State at OU. K-State beat them last year.
Yeah. I mean, there's
different K-State team.
Oklahoma's had some losses on their defense. Guys getting kicked off the team or injured. So
Missouri K-State's better than Missouri State, who OU just freaking trucked, but K-State didn't look so good in their first game.
No, they didn't. So. And I should say, OU, the players suspended. They've got a few players suspended for the first several games of the season. So there's a reason why it could be that game. Alabama at Missouri, I'll make a case. Missouri's got a really good defense, underrated defense. Yeah. I mean, you're going up against
Drake Woods, guy's handful,
and Devontae Smith and Jalen Waddle. So we'll see if they can hold on. But Vanderbilt, I'm sorry, I can't make a case for.
No,
it's going to be tough.
No, you could make the case that A&M's offense could struggle, though.
Yeah, you could make the case that that's A&M's the weakest team of the big favorites there. They OU,
they definitely
Alabama,
are.
Georgia.
But then Vandy's probably the weakest of the bad. So
yeah,
true. Yeah. All right. Anyway, let's move on to more competitive game. We got Florida -14 at Ole Miss. Trey, what do you think?
I'm going to take the 2 touchdowns with Ole Miss. I'm obviously bullish on the Gators this year, but this isn't a cakewalk first game playing on the road. They're going to allow about 16,000 fans. Ole Miss, we know they have some firepower on offense. Kiffin has already kind of said that Matt Corral and Plumlee will play. Corral will probably get the start, kind of fits more of the passing scheme of Kiffin. Jerrion Ely, he averaged almost 7 yards a carry last year. He's a good kick returner as well. Florida's defense is legit, but I think Kiffin can muster up at least some points to get within that number. Trask, he's also going to be without his starting center, Ethan White. He's got a knee injury, so maybe one little thing to watch for. I think Florida's going to win, but Ole Miss gets the cover.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm taking the points with the Ole Miss. Just a kind of a bet on Lane Kiffin, and I think Ole Miss's defense, even though it's not going to be very good this year, the one possible question with Florida, as you mentioned it, the offensive line, especially with an injury there. Kyle Trask got hit a lot last year, and Ole Miss this year could have a pretty good pass rush. Sam Williams was very good in his first year from JUCO last year. He's apparently back from an offseason suspension, I think. So it's one guy to look out for to give some fits to that Florida offensive line.
I'll go the other way. I'll take Florida. I'm not ready for Lane Kiffin yet. I do think he'll do solid this year, but Florida is. I like Florida this year. I'm very high on them. Kyle Trask and the Gators offense, I trust. Dan Mullen's going to have them ready to go. I know that their passing game is going to be good. Hopefully, the running game is the thing that I want to see. That's the main kind of thing I want to see from the Florida offense in this game is just how are they going to run the ball this year. So hopefully they do that well, but either way, they're going to put up yards, and their defense is stout. Their defense is going to be really, really good. I don't think in the Ole Miss's first game against this type of defense, I think they're going to struggle. And I don't trust them throwing the ball yet. So yeah, I'll say Gators big.
Okay, Kentucky at Auburn, very good game here. Auburn's favored 7.5. I think it's going to be a relatively low-scoring game. You got 2 very good defenses. We know Kentucky's offense with Terry Wilson not likely to have a lot of explosive plays through the air, and they play at a very slow pace. Another reason it could be low scoring. I am on the other side a little bit lower on Bo Nix, probably significantly lower on Bo Nix than the public, it seems like. I'm sure he's going to improve, but he's going up against a really good Kentucky defense that had a secondary that performed pretty well last year with just about everybody back. I just don't see Auburn putting up a ton of points here. So in a low scoring game, I'm usually taking the underdog. The points are that much more valuable. So give me Kentucky.
Yeah, same sentiments. I just don't think that Auburn has enough firepower to really separate themselves from a good defensive team that has a good ground game like Kentucky will. That Kentucky offensive line is going to be able to carve some holes against pretty much anybody. So that'll, again, kind of go to Michael's point of slowing the game down. So those 2 things make it really hard to blow out a team. And Kentucky's not a team that tends to turn the ball over. So, yeah, I just, it's going to be a 21-17 type of game. But I think Kentucky will cover.
You guys make compelling arguments, but I'm going to take Auburn, and for whatever reason, I'm actually going to make them my lock.
All right.
No, Malzahn, I was reading some of his quotes, giving me hope on Bo Nix, saying, I think you'll see him definitely improve. He's a different player right now. I wasn't really expecting those exact words from him. So I like Kentucky, but it's a tough first game on the road at Auburn, especially for over a year off for Terry Wilson. He's not a polished passer.
True.
I want to see him knock some rust off before I really kind of start to buy into Kentucky. Like, I like them. I love their defense and their run game, but if they're behind and they have to pass, that's trouble.
Good point.
Okay, let's go to the ACC. We got Louisville at Pitt. Pitt is favored by 3, Ryan.
Yeah, I know Louisville just had a tough one, obviously, against Miami, but when you go up against Pitt, Kenny Pickett doesn't present as many challenges as a guy like De'Aaron King does. So I think it can look a lot different there for that Louisville defense going up against a little bit easier offense to go up against. Wasn't super impressed, obviously, with Pitt last week against Syracuse. Syracuse's offense is completely anemic, and Pitt still couldn't really distance themselves from the Orange. That was concerning to me. But if Pitt does win, I think we'll be very, very close because I know Malik Cunningham, Javion Hawkins, Tutu Atwell, Des Fitzpatrick, that Louisville offense, they're going to put up some points. Okay, they're not going to get shut down. And I don't trust Pitt to put up a ton of points really against anybody, but unless they're playing Austin Peay, which not playing Austin Peay here. I know Louisville's defense isn't great, but I think they can really, with that offense, keep it close. I'm just going to take the points because I think this one's pretty much a toss-up. So, yeah, I'll take the points with Louisville. Say they bounce back.
Yeah, I agree with, I think, everything you just said right there. The one thing that gives me cause for pause here is Louisville's offense did not handle the Miami pass rush very well, and Pitt is as good or maybe even better. I mean, that's a strong statement, but that Pitt defense is ridiculous. They're number 2 in SP Plus, I think, right now. So
imagine if they had Twyman.
I know. Imagine, Jalen Twyman wasn't sitting out the season, but even without him, they're great. But like you, I just think they've got so many weapons. Louisville is going to find a way to put up points, just like they did last week. I mean, not enough, but
put up
like
34.
you said, they're going up against Pickett now potentially without his top receiver, Taysier Mack. I don't know if he's going to be back or not, but that causes me to take +3.
I'm going to go the other way. I don't want to overreact to Louisville and their bad defense, but I guess I kind of am. I need them to prove it to me. I'm just going to go with the better defense, and Pickett and Pitt. We kind of knocked them, but I'm sure they can put up points against a average to below average defense. Yeah. So I think I'm not too concerned with the offense. They can't match score for score, but I think their defense, Pitt's defense, will be able to slow down Louisville more than Pitt or Louisville can Pitt. So
okay,
I'll take Pitt.
All right, Iowa State -1.5 at TCU. What do you think, Trey?
Iowa State, they've had a couple weeks to lick their wounds. It might be an advantage since they have a game under their belts and they can address those issues. TCU, obviously, they had their opener next against SMU. Now going into the game with a couple quarterbacks, we had surprising news that Max Duggan is back in the fold, but Patterson sounds like he's actually leaning towards Matthew Downing at this point. Either way, they're going to have a new weapon at receiver.
Just because Duggan hasn't
been practicing,
yeah.
But no matter who's playing at quarterback, they got a new weapon this year, new toy. J.D. Spielman at receiver and probably punt returner. I think Patterson's Frogs, though, are going to bounce back this year. They're always near the top of the Big 12 in defense. They got their leading tackler from the Big 12, Garrett Wallow. Pro Football Focus has TCU's safeties as the top 2 in the conference, Morig and Washington. I think they're going to prevent Purdy from bouncing back. I'm going to take TCU plus the points.
Yeah, I'm going to take TCU also here. I wasn't super high, obviously, on them coming into the year, just because I don't think that offense is going to be good at all. But, from Iowa State, that we obviously weren't expecting that. But, I can't trust them right now, especially since their stud tight end, Charlie Kohler, he's going to travel, I guess, to Fort Worth, but I don't know if he's Matt Campbell. He's already came out and said he's not 100%. So I wouldn't count on him even playing. And if he does, nowhere near the Charlie Kohler that we're used to seeing. So if they had him full 100% healthy, I'd take Iowa State, but because they desperately need that. I mean, they were really lacking playmakers. They couldn't get any separation against Louisiana. I'll say Louisiana when they played. So yeah, just for that point, I'm going to take TCU because they do have going to have a good solid defense. So there's no way Iowa State's going to put up a bunch of points. So I'm taking the Horned Frogs.
All right, I'm going against you guys. I'm just not going to let one mediocre performance from Iowa State get me off them. I was super high on them coming into the year, and just honestly it's combination of me being a little bit high on Iowa State coming into the year and just low on TCU with Matthew Downing. Like the quarterback disparity here between Purdy and Downing is just, I think, huge. Downing was a former walk-on. We just don't know what to expect from him at all. He's going up against a really good Iowa State defense. It wasn't the defense's fault that they lost a couple weeks ago. So no, I'll take Iowa State on the road, and I'm going to make it my lock. Ooh. All right. Mississippi State at LSU is our next game. LSU is favored 16.5. This one is, for me, very hard to pick. We've got Mississippi State with brand new head coach Mike Leach, new quarterback KJ Costello, totally new offense, of course. Then on the other side, you've got LSU with Miles Brennan at quarterback, basically a whole new team, whole new roster, it feels like. And I'm kind of low on both teams coming into the year. So I don't know who to pick, but I'm just going to lean on the talent, I guess, of LSU. And I just think Mississippi State, I think at least me and Trey disagree on this one. I think they could get off to a slow start in Leach's tenure because at Wazoo, the year one, the offense was terrible. It took them a while to get that thing going. So I could see that happening.
It's different scenario, brother. Different scenario.
I know.
Yeah, a little different. He's inheriting a little bit more, but I hear you. Like, I'm not expecting Mississippi State to be all world. So but with that said, I'm going to take the points with Mississippi State. I'm just basically in this prove it to me mode with LSU at this point. Just since they had so much attrition from last year, I want to see all the new pieces work together before I really start trusting them. And honestly, if you're going to play LSU, this would be the time to do it. If you're Leach and KJ Costello, it's as good a spot you can ask for early in the season before they all gel. And if there is some form of air raid in week one, it'll put pressure on LSU's defense early. I know Derek Stingley will cover his half of the field, but overall it presents a challenge. I think Leach and Costello will know that, and they'll use Kylan Hill a little bit more than what you'd expect in a Leach offense. LSU is going to win, but maybe not in dominant fashion.
Yeah, I agree with Trey. I'm going to take Mississippi State. I just think with so much uncertainty, it could be a really ugly game. We could see some weird things happen in this one, funky things, lots of turnovers, lots of fumbles, lots of just things that you just go like, wow, this is first game stuff. And so I think that'll even the playing field for both teams. And I just think 16.5 is a lot, that win by, Mississippi State's got talent. To say that they don't is, they're going to have some pieces. Their defense will be fine, should be fine. So I just got to take those big points.
Okay. I'm not confident in my pick there, especially after hearing you guys. Texas is favored 18.5 at Texas Tech. Ryan, I have a feeling based on your analysis of Texas Tech earlier where you're going here.
Yeah, I'm going with the Longhorns. Okay. Hook 'em in this game. Yeah. Tech. What happened to the defense, man? I know it wasn't going to be good, but thought it was going to be better. Giving up over 600 yards of offense to Houston Baptist. That is.
Ryan, did you say over 400 yards of offense?
I think you said 300. Yeah.
Oh, 300, dude. It was way more than that.
Sam Ehlinger is going to have a field day against this group. He had a field day. What is it? Was that 2 weeks ago now? Or was that last week where they beat? No, it's 2 weeks ago, right? Can't even remember.
Feels like 2 weeks ago.
Feels like 2 weeks ago. Yeah, he had a field day against UTEP, which probably fields a similar defense than Texas Tech does at this point.
Wow.
So, Texas Tech is. So I think Texas will score 49 in this game without even blinking. It's just going to happen. It's so much better. But the question is, how much can Texas Tech put up? All right. And then Bowman's a solid quarterback. They put up obviously a lot of yards against Houston Baptist, but I don't think they can get to 30-ish. I think Texas defense is much improved. They smothered UTEP in that first game. I know UTEP isn't great, but they look different. Texas wasn't really smothering anybody. So I think they are really going to give trouble to that Texas Tech offense, get some turnovers. I think Ellinger is just going to easily win this game. So I'm going to take Texas Tech and make them. I'm going to take Texas, and I'm going to make them my lock.
I'm taking the Longhorns too, but I feel like everyone in the public's going to be on Texas, so it might be a square betting play here, just because everyone kind of knows how much Texas Tech struggled in that first game. But I'm like you. I think Texas is going to be licking their chops. I think they're focused this year. Like they want it. They're on a mission. I trust Ellinger. Like I know he's going to put up huge numbers. And I think that Texas defense this is kind of the first game they can prove that their defense is taking the next steps. They haven't been so great the last couple of years. If they can generate some pressure on Alan Bowman, who they'll get their points and yards, but I don't think enough to match wits with Texas here. The other thing is Texas Tech, their starting running back was arrested on Monday. So that's going to be a tough thing to overcome. I think the Longhorns cover.
I love Texas this year. Obviously, I was in our Big 12 preview. I pretty confident I went over and was feeling good about that. So it's tough for me to do this, but I'm gonna pick Texas Tech. I'm just gonna, I guess, buy low on Texas Tech's terrible defense because that's what everybody's talking about. And also, they're supposed to be getting back two of their better defensive players this game. Colin Schooler, the really good linebacker, grad transfer from Arizona, did not play in game one. He's supposed to play here. DeMarcus Fields, maybe more questionable as to whether he plays, but he's supposed to be back, kind of a hybrid safety linebacker. So hopefully those additions help a little bit. And I'm thinking more a backdoor cover from Alan Bowman. Okay, we got a G5 matchup here. Well, Independent versus G5. Yeah. Army at Cincinnati. Cincinnati's favored 13.5. What do you think, Trey?
Yeah, I didn't quite foresee a ranked versus ranked game that I wanted to watch here a few weeks ago, but here we are. Ritter and the offense, they look pretty good for Cincinnati, but they went up against that outmatched Austin Peay defense. I know Army only played Middle Tennessee and Louisiana Monroe, but they've made both of them look really bad. That defense stifled both of them. Their option attack has been lethal. Christian Anderson, their quarterback, has kind of taken the reins and taken the keys from Monken, and he's run with them. The one note for Cincinnati is their leading receiver from last year, Alec Pierce, is still out with a knee injury, so they won't have one less weapon. Cincinnati's D-line is going to prevent Army from winning this one, but I do think Army's going to do enough to get the cover.
Okay, I'm going to go the other way just because you mentioned the opponent's Army's played. That's the currently second and third to last defenses in the country per SP+. Now, part of the reason is because Army has dominated them so much that they dropped. But still, the point is, this is a totally different animal. Cincinnati, probably the best G5 defense. And they've had time to prepare because, like you said, they played an FCS school last weekend. I'm guessing they were, looking ahead and prepping for the Army option. So I'll take Cincy.
I'm gonna go with Trey. I'll take Army here. I just think it's tough to really control this team with beat them by a lot. They're gonna shorten the game with a lot of runs. And you look back to the Michigan game last year, they lost us by 7 at Michigan. So they can hang with anybody with that style of offense.
Year before against Oklahoma took them to overtime.
Exactly. There you go. So they're used to playing on the road in tough environments against good teams and doing well. So I don't see why they can't hang with Cincinnati here.
Okay. West Virginia at Oklahoma State. Cowboys are favored by 7. And Mike Gundy's been pretty quiet about the status of Spencer Sanders. He was in a walking boot earlier this week. That's about all we know right now. So it's either going to be a hobbled Spencer Sanders or likely the true freshman Shane Illingworth at quarterback. And I'm not super confident in either of those options, even though Illingworth, played well in the short time he was in there. But he's a true freshman, and it's behind an offensive line that I think gave up, something like 7 sacks. I think I might have.
That's what you mentioned.
Talked about that earlier. Is that what I said? Yeah. So I don't know. And they're going up against a D line led by Darius and Dante Stills, the Stills brother. That's a really good Big 12 D line. So I'm going to take Jarrett Dagey and West Virginia to hang in there +7.
Yeah, I can definitely see that. And I am kind of high here on West Virginia going into this year. I'm just going to say that Oklahoma State really bounces back here. I mean, what would the spread of this game have been before we saw them play last week? I mean, like over 2 touchdowns?
Probably. I don't know about that, probably. But it would be maybe for sure double digits.
Yeah, like it would have been really, really different. So I'm just gonna not try to react too much to 1 week. I know it's hard not to, but I still think they have a lot of weapons. From what I've seen from Illingworth, he did obviously come in and do pretty well. But I just think we'll see a renewed focus from them from that side of the ball. I think they'll probably have something to prove. I think Hubbard will have a big game. So yeah, I'm just going to kind of go against the grain, I guess, and just say, hey, Oklahoma, I'll do the thing that Michael's doing, buying low. So I'll buy low here on Okie State. It's just a touchdown. So I think they'll improve this week. Their defense is good, so maybe they can force maybe some West Virginia turnovers. And West Virginia still got some questions on offense themselves. I mean, yeah, they lit it up against Eastern Kentucky, but before that, like remember last year, they literally couldn't run the ball. So we'll see what happens against a Big 12 solid defense like Oklahoma State.
Yeah, I've been high on West Virginia in the offseason. Love Seth Doege, but I think it's just a bad time to play Okie State. I was also encouraged by their defense. I think they can slow West Virginia down enough. I'm going to take Oklahoma State as well.
Okay, game day is going to be at Miami, so it's Florida State at Miami. What do you think of this one, Ryan?
Yeah, well, we already mentioned Norvell won't be there for testing positive for coronavirus, and it's just going to make it harder on Florida State in that offense that's already looking pretty bad. Just another hurdle for them to overcome. But it's just been a rough go for FSU, like especially quarterback wise. You think about, man, they lost out on Sam Howell. Ouch, right? I mean, that was a devastating blowout. Looking at what happened, they lost on Jeff Sims at Georgia Tech, who would, it would be nice to have if you're a Florida State fan right now. Heck, their former quarterback Bailey Hockman started for NC State and looked pretty good again in that game. So it's brutal. So I know FSU has some talent on that defense. I think, but this Derek King has proven to me so far that, he's done a good job and he can handle it. So I'm impressed with them. Maybe obviously the FSU can slow down Miami better than UAB and a pretty bad Louisville defense did, because FSU's defense does have some nice pieces, no doubt about it. But Miami doesn't have to put up 30 points to win this one, even to win this one by maybe more than 11. I don't think FSU is going to be able to do much offensively. So I'm going to give the 11 points here with Miami. Say they win pretty comfortably.
Okay. I'm not confident in this pick, but I'm going to go the other way. And I'm not confident because that Miami pass rush going up against this Florida State offensive line is very scary. That has potential to be ugly. And I was low on FSU coming into the year, but I just don't think they're as bad as they played against Georgia Tech. And they're coming off of a bye here, which is always helpful. Get 2 weeks to prepare. They get one of their best defensive players back, Hamza Nasruddin at safety is supposed to play here. Hopefully Joshua Kando can come back from that injury. It's kind of questionable at this point, but that would really help put a little pressure on Derek King. So not confident, but rivalry game. I'll just take plus 11.
Yeah, I'm going with Florida State as well. Miami benefited from playing that weaker Louisville defense last week. Florida State, hopefully their defense is much superior and can keep it close, because I'm not overly confident in the offense, but I'm banking on the defense being able to hold Miami in check and keep it within the 11.
Okay, here's an interesting game here. We got Tennessee at South Carolina, and the Vols are favored just 3.5. Trey?
Yeah, it's kind of one of those fishy lines. Seems like Tennessee should win this, but I'm going to take South Kakalaki here. That's a tough opening game for the Vols on the road. Muschamp is going to have a really good defense this year. They're 11th in SP plus, preseason. So I want to see the Vols. I want to see Garantano, see if he's improved and can be more consistent with that offense. I mean, for his sake, in the SEC preview, he's got one of the better offensive line. Trey Smith, Cade Mays. So that's an encouraging thing for him. But I want to see on South Carolina's side, I'm kind of anxious to see Mike Bobo, the new offensive coordinator, see if Colin Hill, his old Colorado State quarterback, can get it done against a really good Tennessee defense. But since it's the first game, the line kind of seems fishy. I'm going to take the home dog.
I'm going to go the other way. I'll take the Vols here just because mainly of the thing you just mentioned, Mike Bobo, and that new offense with the new quarterback coming in from a little bit maybe subpar competition compared to here, like an SEC Tennessee type defense. So I just don't know if they're going to have the ball rolling quite yet. And I just trust Tennessee. They're within the same system that they had. They had the advantage, obviously, there. They got some playmakers really on defense. And I think Garrettano, I'm higher on him than most. I know he's been somewhat inconsistent, but if you give him a good offensive line, which he should have this year, and a good running game, I think he's going to look light years better. So give me Tennessee. I think they're going to do a good job this year. I'm going to say they win this one by about a touchdown.
Okay, I'm going with Trey. I'm going with South Carolina. I think they're going to be better this year than people think. I mean, they're not going to be great, but like Trey said, defense is supposed to be good. Really like that secondary. I like Colin Hill just because, I mean, yes, it's a new coordinator for South Carolina, but like we said, Bobo coached Hill at Colorado State, so he knows the offense, and he's been pretty good when healthy. So I think he'll be a lot better than Helinski was last year. And I just think in general, this game is going to be dominated by defenses. So I'll take 3.5 in a low scoring game. Okay, last game we're all going to go through here is NC State at Virginia Tech. Virginia Tech is favored 6.5. This spread would be larger if we knew more about Virginia Tech, because they've, of course, had some problems with COVID and last week had to cancel their game against Virginia. This week, Justin Fuente said, quote, "We will not have a full roster. I hope we're able to play," end quote. So that makes this game very difficult to pick. And honestly, it kind of makes you question. We've had games last week that we previewed that ended up getting canceled after we recorded it. So I don't know. Hopefully that doesn't happen with this game, but seems like at least a possibility. So hard to pick. Also, because I like both teams going into the year, I thought NC State was going to be one of the most improved teams in the country. And I thought Virginia Tech had a chance to make that ACC championship. So I guess I'll lean with Virginia Tech just because my love for the Hokies this year is too much. I just love all they have coming back, even with a couple losses in the secondary. There's like 18 returning starters, something like that. They're at home. I think they're on a different level than NC State.
I agree. I mean, I was so high on the Hokies this year that even if they're not with that full roster, it'd be silly for me to still not back them. And NC State, yeah, they had a good win versus Wake, but it was back and forth. They easily could have lost. NC State's defense doesn't really scare me. If I'm Hendon Hooker and the Hokies, the Hokies return that pretty much their entire offensive line, a couple all ACC players there. So I think the Hokies will be able to put up points, even if they're not at complete full strength enough to cover.
I'm gonna go the other way. I'm gonna take NC State. There's a big unknown, obviously, just from as you hear from Fuente's own comments. You don't know what Virginia Tech's going to trot out there on Saturday, and I know NC State's most likely going to bring a really good running game. That's going to be tough to stop. So I can't, with the unknown, give like 6.5 points. I'm just not comfortable with that. So I think it could be ugly game, and I think NC State can put up enough points to cover the spread here.
All righty, let's move on and cover some other games that we're not all going to cover, but worth bringing up. So let's get to the honorable mentions.
All right, so let's move on to the first one here. This one's going to be played on Thursday. Good Thursday action game. We got UAB is favored a touchdown at South Alabama. South Alabama is so close right now to being 2-0, and against some pretty solid competition. They beat Southern Miss, of course, in the very first FBS game, and then Tulane. They just barely lost at the last moment. They had a lead, but they couldn't hang on. So, anyways, they're a better team than they've been. They've done a good job down there. So, I just don't think UAB has the explosive offense that scares me. I'm going to take the home dog Jaguars plus the 7 points. Friday, we got a game, Middle Tennessee. Oh boy. Middle Tennessee at Texas San Antonio, who is favored 6.5. That's got to be a surprising spread before the year if you would have thought that.
Yeah, for sure.
Middle Tennessee is just falling off the face of the earth here. They have been outscored 89-14. Meanwhile, San Antonio, they're 2-0. I know they've played Texas State and Stephen F. Austin, but Texas State almost beat SMU, so there's some decent competition there. I don't think that's a bad win at all. I'm going to take the Roadrunners, say they can win by a touchdown. Finally, I got Georgia Tech -8 at Syracuse. Syracuse covered for me last week. I'm going to go with them again. I think they can do it. I like I kind of said, I like Jeff Sims' potential at quarterback in the future for Georgia Tech, but right now he's just not that great. 4 picks and some turnovers, some fumbles, just not a great look. So I don't think Georgia Tech can really blow anybody out yet. And as pathetic as Syracuse offense is, we already talked on Syracuse defense is much improved. So I think they'll keep that one close. So I'm going to take the Q's home dog.
I like that pick. I've got Kansas at Baylor. Baylor's favored 17.5. It's going to be Baylor's first game with Dave Aranda at head coach. Tons of new pieces on the defense. Not the size on the defensive line that Aranda prefers. New offensive coordinator as well, of course. Who was Larry Fedora coming in from North Carolina. And on top of all those changes, they've been struggling with COVID. Of course, they had to cancel last week's game. So I'll take a chance and just take the points with Kansas. Next, I got Texas State at Boston College. Boston College is favored 17.5. Brian talked about Phil Dracovic earlier. Loved what I saw from him, but I did think it was a bit of a misleading score. Like I said, Duke had scoring opportunities wasted. They, turnover in their own territory. So I think that game might have been
closer than it was the score, no doubt.
Exactly. So, and Texas State, they've been playing pretty well, getting some guys back from quarantine this week as well, including the quarterback Brady McBride, though Tyler Vitt has played pretty well in his absence.
And Vitt's been an experienced guy himself. So
yeah, but he was terrible last year. So I
but he was experienced.
Experienced, yeah. Well, he's been better this year, so he might get the start. But either way, I'll take the points with Texas. And then I'm just going to list some of the games we were going to cover, but they've been canceled or postponed. We got Notre Dame at Wake Forest. Maybe a little bit fortunate for Wake Forest. They don't want to start out 0-3. North Texas at Houston. Houston's now had opponents in 4 straight would-be home openers cancel on them. So that's rough. They just can't get their season started. We got Tulsa at Arkansas State and USF at FAU. Not happening this week.
Wasn't Houston going to go to Baylor last week?
Yeah, last week they scheduled that within a few days or something. But
I thought you said home openers though.
Yeah, whatever.
Whatever.
Ryan looks for these little details.
Well, hey, Michael tries to correct me all.
It's true. By the way, the music, I know it's very quiet, but it stopped playing because I got an alert on my phone. So very professional here.
Oh,
it has been quiet. I
never thought I would get a text message ever.
Yeah. It must be spam. No one texts you. All
Just
right.
Kidding. It wasn't a text message. It was a low battery warning.
Oh, that's about right. All right. My first game is Duke at Virginia. Virginia's favored 5. I'm going to take the Cavs here. I'm not terribly high on them this season, especially after replacing Bryce Perkins on offense, who pretty much carried that offense. But I like their defense under Bronco Mendenhall, especially against Chase Bryce and Duke, who haven't looked all that impressive in their first 2 games. So I'm going to take the fresher Virginia team. Next one, I got Troy is playing at BYU. BYU's favored 14. This is the nightcap. It's a 10:15 Eastern kickoff. Yeah, we haven't seen BYU since their opening week thrashing of Navy.
Supposed to play Army last week, right? That was disappointing not to see that one.
Yeah. Troy's offense, though, looked great with Gunnar Watson at the helm. But again, it was against Middle Tennessee, who looked pretty poor. But they're going to move the ball better than Navy did. So they'll be able to do that. But the problem for Troy is BYU has some big boys on their offensive line. Combine that with a below average Troy defense, I think Zach Wilson is going to lead BYU to a big win because of their offense. And then we got Georgia Southern at Louisiana, the Raging Cajuns. They're favored 11.5. I'm going to go chalk here. I'm taking the Raging Cajuns. They had their letdown game last week against Georgia State, obviously after their big Iowa State upset. Georgia Southern, they say that they're going to have a majority of their 33 players back that were out in that first game. It's a little worrisome, though, that they're not confident, and we don't know who and how many will still be out.
Kind of mix and matching some guys that...
at full strength, they could give them a game with their option attack, but problem is, no matter what, they have a pretty poor defense, and it's going to be a tall task trying to slow down Levi Lewis and Elijah Mitchell. So I think Louisiana gets the win here.
All right. No questionable finish this week. We're instead going to direct everybody to check out our YouTube page. Like we said, we're going to make our playoff and Heisman picks. So be on the lookout for that later today. It might already be posted as you're listening to this. But we are going to make our upset special picks. We got to do that every week. So Trey, who Who's your 7+ point underdog that you're picking to win outright?
Yeah, and I've got who do I have here? No, I've got Florida International +7. And who are they playing? They are playing.
Trey made this pick earlier and he forgot.
Because I knew I was going to back Butch Davis. FIU. Oh, that's right. They're playing Liberty. All right, yeah, because everyone bought into Malik Willis, and I did too. Actually, I really like them. But are they ready to be a over a touchdown favorite? FIU's pretty good. They're supposed to have a really good defensive front, a lot of experience, a lot of seniors. I think Butch Davis and FIU can keep it close and maybe pull off the upset.
All right. I was worried at the start there, but you ended up
I know. Forgot the
doing
Liberty
really
part.
well. So last week I had Liberty winning outright over Western Kentucky. So 2-0 with my underdog so far. This week I'm taking West Virginia. They're a 7-point road dog at Oklahoma State. And yeah, I'm going to pick them to win outright. I'm high on Neil Brown in year 2. And Oklahoma State could be playing a freshman quarterback. So
yeah,
a recipe for an upset.
Yeah, it's a good pick. You guys went with the super close 7-pointers here. I'm going to take a little bit of a real long shot. I'm going to go with Mississippi State Bulldogs here.
Ooh, okay.
Yeah, yep. Kind of like Trey mentioned in our preview episode, I think Leach is likely to go and upset somebody this year. He's kind of, capable of doing that with that style of offense. So why not here against a team that's replacing their team? So
yeah, at LSU,
yeah. Mississippi State, 16.5 point dog. Maybe they can do it.
Okay, it's a gutsy pick. That'll do it for the College Football Bros podcast. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching on YouTube. Every episode, of course, we post on YouTube. Really? We're so close to finishing this episode, and then we just flubbed it. Anyway, enjoy the start of
fourth quarter
Big 12
team.
conference. What's that, Trey?
I said we're not a fourth quarter team apparently this week.
No, we're not. We're the opposite of Sam Howell in North Carolina. No, Big 12 play starting this week. SEC teams back in action for the first time. So it'll be a fun weekend. Enjoy it. And we will talk to everyone next week. We'll be better next week, I promise.
You've been listening to the College Football Bros. If you have any questions for the next podcast, email them to collegefootballbros@gmail.com. Keep up with the brothers on social media, like them on Facebook at College Football Bros, follow them on Instagram at College Football Bros, and for their commentary on Saturdays, follow them on Twitter at CFB Bros. Thanks for listening.